Hello, my name is Jonah White and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about 3 different things that you can make sure that your plot has that's going to be instantly exciting and it's going to keep a reader's attention. So the reason why I decided to make this video because I feel like that I've read a lot of books this year and most of them have been very good and have kept me on the edge of my seat, and I've always wanted to continue turning the pages, but there were that small minority that just didn't hold my attention. I just ended up just putting it aside. I picked it up 3 months down the road and finished them off, but very slowly, and some of them I have not even considered to go back reading. So when it comes to these 3 things, you need to make sure that they're revealed fairly early in your plot. Otherwise, you're going to instantly lose your reader's attention and they're going to just put your book down and probably won't pick it back up again. And this could definitely hurt you if you're an author that's writing a series like I am, because I'm an apocalyptic writer and I'm writing in a series and I need to make sure that my books are exciting. Otherwise, if the people find my first book very uninteresting, they're not going to read the second one or the third book, and they're not going to give my series a chance down the road. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about that your plot needs is a goal, because your characters or plot needs a goal that it's striving towards, and it needs to be made fairly clear, because if your characters or plot just have no goal, your readers don't know what to expect of the book, and there's really nothing to hold their interest. It's like without a goal, the book is going to feel directionless, your readers are going to be confused, and there's just nothing exciting to look for. And also, when it comes to a goal, it's fine to change the goals as long as they're within the same realm and it's more like an alteration of the goal. Don't change the goal throughout the story. Okay, the goal is meant to be this in the first act, but then all of a sudden the main goal is all of a sudden just dropped, and now a new goal sets in and then another goal sets in, because now the readers are it just gives your story that sense of it's resetting over and over, and we're restarting the story over and over. So you need to have a consistent goal from the beginning to the end that's pretty compelling. Okay, so the second thing we're going to be talking about, along with these goals, you need stakes attached to them. And what I mean by stakes is there needs to be some sort of reward or consequences that are attached to these stakes. If you don't have these, then the readers are going to be disattached again, because we don't know why these goals matter to our characters or to this plot, or why we should care. So let's say, for example, the goal of a story is for a character to pass an exam. Well, good, but if we don't know any stakes, we're not going to care whether this character passes the test or not. What are the stakes? Is it game breaking? Is this character going to fail a class if he fails this exam, or is it just one out of many? Or is it at the beginning of the semester where if the character messes up or passes, there's plenty more along the way. If they fail this one, there's probably plenty more that they're going to have coming up where they can pass those, and then this one becomes irrelevant. So your plot needs to establish these stakes right away. Let's take the exam situation as an example. So if we have a character that's trying to pass a test, so what's at stake here? Okay, we can add that, okay, this character has been failing test after test throughout the semester, and he needs to pass this final exam because it's a big percentage of his grade. Otherwise, he's going to fail this class and get an F. Okay, that puts some pressure on the student to pass this exam, and it kind of gives us an audience to care about this exam. It's okay, this student is going to fail this class if he doesn't pass this exam. So that's what I mean by stakes, and they need to be established fairly early on, during the same time or right after the goal is established, because we can have a goal, but we need to have stakes. There's no way around it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your readers right away if you don't establish the stakes fairly early on. Okay, so the third thing I want to talk about is urgency. So when it comes to urgency, what it means is that you kind of set some sort of deadline, or there's some sort of urgent feeling to accomplishing these goals. For example, you could have okay, this student has to pass the exam, but you also know the stakes. If he doesn't pass this exam, he's going to fail the class and get probably kicked out of college or something like that. But if you need to add urgency, when is this exam? How long does the student have to study? Is it 2 months down the road? Well, that isn't that interesting, because then that's plenty of time for this student to pass this exam. How about we add a situation where the exam is just a few days from now? So there's an urgent feeling for him to study for the exam and pass it, because he only has a few days and he needs to study hard. Otherwise, his this class is hanging in the balance within the next few days. So that's how you establish urgency. Okay, so another thing that the urgency does is that it helps keep your characters moving. Otherwise, if you reach a certain part in the plot where the goal and the stakes are established, but then throughout the whole story there's no sense of urgency going on, well, your audience is going to feel well, the characters are not taking this seriously, there seems to be no time limit, and they're not in any rush to accomplish these goals. Therefore, I have no reason to continue on with this book, because I'm in no rush to find out what happens or see these characters accomplish these goals. Another thing that urgency does is that it provides momentum towards that climax, because your characters are trying to accomplish this goal and it's driving the plot. Because the stakes and goal are good and they drive the first plot, but they're the first act, but they're not going to drive your story beyond that without any sense of urgency, because it's going to feel like it's meandering around. So another thing that urgency does, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on urgency, but I feel like this is fairly important to make sure that your readers are hooked onto your story and want to continue turning the pages. But urgency helps validate the placement of your story, because if you establish the urgency, you can justify why your story is taking place in this particular time. Because let's just say you have the goals and stakes and the character accomplishes the goal maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. Well, that kind of gives the readers well, why is the story taking place right now? Couldn't you have moved up the timeline and just had them just find out about the goal then? What's the urgency? This doesn't apply to every situation, but you need to establish urgency right away, or at least sometime before the first act ends. Otherwise, your readers are not going to stick around long enough waiting for you to reveal that so late in the story. And those are the 3 things that I personally look for in my first draft to make sure that my book is interesting to me, but also make sure that it's interesting to the readers, to make sure that they want to continue turning my pages. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to share with your friends to help support this channel. And without further ado, I'll see you next time. Happy writing.